may be seated.
If this is not your first High Holy Days with us, then you are familiar with our Book of Life speeches. So in the prayer Avinu Malkeinu, we pray to God the words, Kotvenu b'Sefer Chaim Tovim, by which we ask God to please write us into the Book of Life. That we pray that God will write us in so we know we'll be sitting here next year. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depends on how you look at it, I promise you this. Next week, when we leave here from Ne'ilah, there will be no one standing at the door handing you a green slip or a red slip telling you whether you've made it or not. I don't know if they'd be green or red, black, or I don't know. But we're not doing it. It's not going to happen. So I ask the question, if we change the vowels of the word kotvenu, which means please, or means write us, and we change them to say katavnu, which in Hebrew means we have written, or put a question mark at the end of it and ask, have we written? It becomes a powerful question that can guide how we live our lives. And each year we invite some people to share their thoughts on what it means to be written into the Book of Life. Virginia Ginny Levenback was born and raised in a small town in the Hudson Valley of New York. She attended Goshen High School and St. Lawrence University, graduating with a degree in government. Unable to find employment locally, she moved at 21 to Houston to work for Pennzoil on environmental and safety compliance. She remained in Houston for 40 years, except for 3 years living in Austin to attend the University of Texas Law School, graduating in 1985. Ginny spent her legal career working for energy companies, doing transactional and regulatory work associated with large-scale construction projects. When Ginny retired from legal practice, she devoted her energy to service work focused on homelessness, food insecurity, and issues related to children. Ginny converted to Judaism in 1995, a decision she describes as one of the best of her life. Ginny has been a supporter of CSK since its inception. She married her beloved Charles and formed a family with him and his two amazing sons, Sam and Ben, in 1996. After retirement, Charles and Ginny moved back to Goshen 2 years ago to be closer to extended family, including grandchildren. Ginny has survived 4 primary cancers. She will discuss how her faith helped her navigate life's challenges. How's that? Okay. You're gonna do it.
Shana Tova, everyone. I'm feeling a little tender right now after hearing Lador Vador, which makes me cry every single time, and the shofar. It's a little, I'm very tender right now, so maybe that's the right place to be. Every year, I'm inspired by this portion of the service where a congregant shares deeply. Every year, I wonder, how would I answer that question for myself? This year, I am humbled and honored to share some thoughts on what it means to be written into the Book of Life or to choose life. On April 26, 1991, I became a cancer survivor at the age of 34 when I was diagnosed with a stage 1 breast cancer. I was very private about my diagnosis. It took me 2 weeks to tell my parents, and I only told my boss and my loyal assistant the true reason for my leave of absence from work. My physicians recommended a mastectomy. On my own, I researched a new treatment strategy, breast conserving surgery, and ultimately received a lumpectomy, chemo, and radiation. Every year, I observed my cancer birthday, and I was meticulous about my follow up. Every year, my mammogram was normal with a disclaimer that I had dense breasts. I was grateful to be alive, even though coping with long term complications of treatment such as osteoporosis and infertility. A year after I completed treatment, I met a man, my Charles, who is now my husband. He was a cancer doctor. He was a cancer surgeon with primary custody of two terrific boys, aged 5 and 7. I was certain that God had led us to each other. After my diagnosis, I committed myself to certain values, including positivity, faith, service, community, connection, and joy. I learned to lean into these values, especially in challenging times. Fast forward to the fall of 2021 when they would be put to the test. My husband Charles had retired in April of that year. We had just purchased a four-wheel drive truck to begin our long planned cross country retirement trip. And I had just received a clean bill of health for my 30-year cancer follow up. In the evening of that same day, September 8th, I received a call that changed everything. My doctor said a blood test revealed something suspicious that needed to be evaluated ASAP. Worse yet, there was a suspicious test results from 6 months earlier that required more follow up investigation. I had not been told about this, and no follow up happened. This literally took my breath away, and I realized that I may be in big trouble. Over the next month, I had a series of tests, many of which I never heard of, that were pretty scary. I was ultimately diagnosed with two different types of breast cancer, one triple negative and one estrogen positive, along with lymph node spread. The proposed treatment plan sounded absolutely grueling. 5 months of chemotherapy, 14 months of immunotherapy, two surgeries, and 6 weeks of radiation therapy. Unbelievably, I also discovered that there were a series of medical and diagnostic errors in my case that delayed the detection of these cancers by at least 18 months. During this time, one of the cancers had grown from 0.9 millimeters to 3 centimeters. All of this was overwhelming. I had a million questions. How could this possibly have happened? How do I move forward? How do I hold all this together? The first thing I knew was that this treatment was going to be physically, emotionally, and spiritually challenging, and I needed an internal and external game plan. I wanted to hold on to what was core to myself during treatment: optimism, determination, openness, and faith filled. Spiritually, I reached out to Rabbi Scott the day after my diagnosis, which happened to be 2 days after Rosh Hashanah. There were things I needed to talk about that would have scared Charles. For example, I wasn't sure if I wanted to have chemotherapy at all. Scott listened without judgments to my doubts about going through the various treatments. Importantly, Scott gave me what he called spiritual infusions. He came to the house, we would sit and talk, we would meditate, he would recite prayers and blessings in word and song. He told me to think of the chemotherapy pole as a tree of life bringing me back to health. This all had a really powerful effect on me. I think the spiritual infusions were as instrumental in my recovery as the chemo, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, and surgery. Emotionally, it was important for me to maintain a positive mindset. For me, this meant filling my home with affirmations and positivity. I created a vision board affirming my health. I shared my journey on Facebook, and I received an incredible amount of love and support. I tried to continue my love of fashion despite losing 15 pounds and all my hair. I showed up to all my appointments, tests, and procedures, with my sense of fashion intact and my yellow legal pad full of questions. I wanted to bring my A game to absolutely everything. As a couple, we created moments of joy whenever possible, regularly getting Danish from the Three Brothers Bakery and driving our truck on Galveston Beach. The Rotary House became the site of our dates. and where we celebrated special milestones in recovery. Our favorite comfort food, which to this day still applies, were chicken pot pie for Charles and fish tacos for me. Physically, I was determined to walk the long distance at the hospital, so I needed to eat healthy and get in my steps. I did acupuncture and participated in the integrative medicine program. In spite of my best efforts, I began to literally run out of energy. Severe anemia resulted in several blood transfusions. Throughout this process, I held on to two things like a life raft. I believed that God was always present and available to me, even in this mess. And I also had to believe with every fiber of my being that something positive would come out of all of this. It was very important to me to try to find a way to address the medical errors in my case in a constructive way. Our initial emotional response was anger at the hospital and shame and guilt that we didn't do a better job of staying on top of results. We decided to focus our energy from anger and fear to collaboration. The institution where I received care had a process of disclosing medical errors and then a debriefing process to better understand and correct what happens. I couldn't have been the only patient to have had the type of issues that I have had. It became our joint mission to use our collective legal and medical skills to help drive systemic changes. We first met with the senior executive assigned to lead the organizational response on International Women's Day, March 8th, 2022. I wore my best outfit and my finest headscarf because by then I had been bald for months. She was highly professional, articulate, serious, and transparent, a cancer survivor herself. After months of futility, we reached the right person. She was the first person after 6 months to sincerely apologize for what happened. She also let us know that she had the resources to fix the problems. Spiritually, I knew she was the right person when I asked if I could open our first meeting with a prayer, and we did. After a productive meeting, she asked if she could close with the prayer. And this became our routine for the next 6 months of meetings. The efforts of her team led to what we really wanted: structural, permanent change to avert similar errors from happening to other people. Some of these changes included closed loop reporting, the development of an actionable findings vigilance unit, the revision of screening guidelines, and enhanced training for advanced practice providers. So, what did I learn during this journey that relates to choosing life? First of all, that I have a choice in any situation to focus on positivity or the gifts, no matter how challenging. In any given moment, I can choose life and blessing. I saw an incredibly generous and compassionate side of humanity as I went through this journey. I received countless meals, flowers, prayers, blessings, and sweets from so many people. For example, one couple from this community brought us Shabbat dinner for an entire year, every single week, and another member included me on her Misha Barak list for 2 years. I'm incredibly grateful. I viewed all of these gifts as support and love that served to keep me going strong. I learned that being open and honest with my challenges was a strength and that help was available. Another thing, miracles can happen at any time. An incredible miracle happened during my treatment. My grandson, Simon Humphrey Levenback, was born on January 13th, 2022. Our hearts exploded with joy and gratitude. Simon was named in part for my amazing mother in law, Haiti Bosch Levenback, a Holocaust and breast cancer survivor herself. Thanks to social media, we were able to be present with the family at his bris. And that's not the only miracle. I had a complete pathological response to chemo and immunotherapy. I survived the treatment and I continue in remission. My relationship with my amazing husband over there grew even stronger during treatment. He never missed a blood test, an infusion, or a doctor's appointment. He was rock solid, and we were a strong team. My faith grew as I learned to walk and trust in an unknown and uncertain path with God. Much uncertainty remains. This week, as a 3-year survivor, I will have a series of important tests to evaluate my health. I pray that I am inscribed, and I will continue to do my best to choose life and blessing. My relationship with medicine is complicated. Medically, what I wish I had known is that mammograms aren't completely effective for detecting cancer in dense breasts. A thorough medical history involves more than known genetic markers and may be complicated for someone with a small family and generations of women who didn't have children. It needs to be revisited and updated periodically. There's no such thing as a routine test for cancer. It's important to take someone along to ask questions and take notes. Complacency has no place in cancer diagnosis, even with decades of healthy results. I looked happy and healthy, and I was a ticking time bomb. With that said, I received state of the art medical treatments that saved my life. I had a dream team of 4 physicians: a medical oncologist, a surgeon, radiation oncologist, and a plastic surgeon that are the best of the best. These amazing doctors were supported by an equally amazing team of nurses, physician's assistants, patient advocates, and radiation techs. My gratitude for this is immense. I'm also grateful for advances in medicine made possible by research, advances in pain management and treatment of nausea that I had during my first cancer. Importantly, immunotherapy had only been approved by the FDA for my disease 2 months prior to my diagnosis. In summary, I am clear that my life is about being connected to things bigger than myself: God, service, nature, music, art. I feel an urgency to live fully and with gratitude. I feel a responsibility to help others facing challenges such as my own. I want to be a positive and peaceful presence in the world. May you and your loved ones be blessed with a happy and healthy new year. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you.